remember what pictures they showed me, but they pulled out the phone and showed me 2 pictures.
Reb Chaim Sassi is just one example of a selfless individual. A choices that we don't understand, a sugya, parsha in our lives that we don't understand. Remember, there were people in these cars. Every action you bring into this world creates the light.
Then why can't I myself identify as a Jew? What am I running from?
Tisha B'Av is such a difficult day to connect to. We find it so hard to really connect to the events of the day and what we're meant to be feeling. One of my big passions is to take people, and specifically my boys of yeshiva, to various places around the world and try to connect them with our history and to show them the messages of courage, the stories of real people that did the most amazing things. I took my boys down south to witness the scene of what happened on October 7th, on the morning of Simchas Torah. Join me on a journey of chizuk so we could try to relive the experience, and hopefully we could try to understand where all the tzoros of Klal Yisrael come from, and that is the day of Tisha B'Av. The Medrash in Eicha, which is also Gemara in Sanhedrin, tells us the following. There was a broken woman who lived in the same neighborhood as Rabbi Gamliel. And this broken woman had a young child. And this young child, unfortunately, suddenly died at a very young age. And every night, this woman would cry, and you would be able to hear her wailings and her emotions, how she cried and she cried for her dear child that left the world. And at that same time, says the Medrash, says the Gemara, Rabbi Gamliel would also cry. Explains the Medrash an incredible idea that upon hearing the sobs of this woman after losing her child, Rabbi Gamliel would cry. But why did he cry? Rabbi Gamliel cried for the Churban Beis HaMikdash. That's why he cried. That says Chazal, the Medrash tells us he cried so intensely his eyelashes fell out. What's curious to understand is why did Rabbi Gamliel cry specifically about the Beis HaMikdash? Because he heard this woman crying about her child. Rav Gifta Zatzal, amongst many others that say the same idea in different ways. Rabbi Gamliel understood the shayrish, he understood the root for all suffering of Klal Yisrael throughout all of the years and all of the times that Klal Yisrael have been pained and been targeted. He understood that the shayrish, the root for all suffering, is the Beis HaMikdash. The fact that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, that there's a Churban, the fact that every single day that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, that is the source of all of the tzoros for Klal Yisrael. Says the Gemara, therefore, when he heard this woman crying, he understood, of course she has her individual pain, but collectively, where does it come from? The Beis HaMikdash. The lack of the Beis HaMikdash, the Shechina, the Avodah, that we are lacking in our lives. On the day of Simchas Torah, you're almost able to sense that which we say in the Kinnis of Tisha B'Av, Alei Simcha Soyeveha, for the rejoicing of her enemies, Sochaku al Shivreha, who laughed at her destruction, Val Inoi B'nei Choyrin Nidiveha Tohireha, and the suffering of her freeborn son, so noble, so pure. Alei Koilois Mechorfeha, for the voice of those who abused her, Be'is Rabu Pegoreha, when her corpses fell thick and fast, Ba'al Rigshas Magtfeha, and the tumult of her revealers B'soich Mishkan Chatzareha, within the courtyard of her sanctuary. We saw that come true on the day of Simchas Torah, such a terrible day for Klal Yisrael. First responder Sruli Kahn was one of the very first people to leave Yerushalayim and drive down south. He left his wife and his children like so many other dedicated volunteers and went right into a war zone.
Hearing those sirens that morning, I was just more alert. No one expected for what had happened. And we started davening, and we reached Birkas Kriyashma, and then I get this rare message from the headquarters was any ambulance driver that is close to the base should come immediately. Now, I am an ambulance driver, so I right away left shul, and I made my way to the headquarters with my talis, you know, the full Jewish look.
The truth is, none of us really understood fully what was going on. I was on my way personally to yeshiva, about to spend Simchas Torah with the boys. Sirens, I see the rockets being intercepted above me, and yet had no idea what was actually happening. We had no idea what was about to unfold, and we tried to have the best Simchas Torah we possibly could have had.
So, yeah, I'm gonna leave davening. I will come back probably in the middle of dancing. Little I know, when I reached down the base, they told me, you're going down south. And I looked at them like, we have never left Yerushalayim on Shabbos. I don't remember what pictures they showed me, but they pulled out a phone and showed me 2 pictures that were enough for me to understand something massive is happening. My son, Simchas Torah, he's about to come to dance with me. The ladies are coming to shul. I know it's not happening this time. Heading out of town. Who knows when you're coming back? The only pieces of information we're starting to get was through the ambulance channel. You heard from them scare. You heard fear through the voice. And we heard disturbing information. I couldn't understand the amount of bodies they were reporting that they're seeing in one place and in one look. What type of injuries and where they're located, and there are traps and shooting, and you hear it in the background. Not knowing what's going on, we're like kind of thinking, are we doing the right thing going down? But something just continued pushing us. You're driving down. Kadosh Baruch Hu decided you're going. 40 minutes driving down. There was nothing more meaningful to say the kafis of Ana Hashem Mashiachna, Ana Hashem Tzidkana. Driving down, not knowing what will be, we knew we were not going to be able to say it later on, so let's have the time. We barely managed to finish that. The roads were completely empty. It was a very weird feeling. Then we reached the skyline on the number 3 road. We see like a war zone ahead of us.
The only way to really describe the events that happened is the Ribbono Shel Olam intervening in the running of the world and sending us a very clear message. The day will go down as one of the worst terrorist attacks ever in history.
This is an NBC News special report.
We have breaking news out of Israel this morning, where Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight.
Over 1,000 Hamas terrorists enter Israel from over 30 breached points. The massive wall that separates Israel and Gaza, with sophisticated electronic devices able to stop anyone from tampering with it, were all of a sudden able to be knocked down. Hamas motorbikes and trucks seem no match compared to the Israeli army's tanks and armored vehicles. Israel was shaken to the core. The unimaginable happened. The nation felt weak, no confidence in their survival. "1,400 people murdered in the most barbaric manner. Over 5,500 wounded, many of them seriously. 242 hostages taken into Gaza, including children and Holocaust survivors. Let's start the journey of looking at some of the heroes that stood up with so much courage. We went to Sderot to visit what's left of the police station and talk about the story of Rabbi Chaim Sassi, a Rav in Sderot, who had just recently built a brand new kehillah and was so excited to be able to spend Simchas Torah with his kehillah. He was also part of Kitot Konanut, which was the rapid response security team here in Sderot, and an active volunteer for Ichad Hatzolah, United Hatzolah. Now, once he realized on Simchas Torah morning that the country, and specifically his town over here, was under attack, he took his gun, he took his bulletproof vest and bulletproof helmet, and he started his motorbike.
אני יוצא המון רעש של יריות, המון רעש של יריות, של מקלעים, של...
And he arrived at a bus stop very close to this police station. Possibly it was the bus stop over there. He was told that's where he needs to be to try and help someone that got injured. And he finds at the bus stop 3 policemen. One of the commanders of the Sderot police was shot and needed him. So he tried to do whatever he could with whatever material he had with him. And he notices on the other side of the road, he notices a policeman lying that was actually shot by a Hamas sniper through the windows, shooting at anyone that would come past. Rabbi Chaim Sassi saw that this policeman was still alive. He saw he was alive. He said to the other policemen that were there, he said, listen, I need to get this guy. He's alive, I can save him, I can help him. Please, I'm asking you to keep shooting. I'm gonna run over. As long as you keep shooting, no one's gonna shoot out the window, no one's gonna put their head out the window because they hear the shooting directed at them. Don't stop shooting until I gather the police person that needs help and bring him back to safety. Cover me. Don't stop shooting until I return. He says for the next few moments, he will never forget in his entire lifetime. Seconds after darting across the street, he reaches the policeman. The sniper shoots him in the knee. A moment later, he was shot in the hand, and the shrapnel cut into his jaw. He was shot twice in his head, and his helmet protected him from the bullets that shot at his head. Ignoring the excruciating pain that he was in at that time, he threw himself over the policeman, shielding him, the policeman under him, from any of the bullets that may come from the snipers within the building. Look at the courage these people had. They had to make split-second decisions without any time to think, and they did what was right. And he dragged the policeman to a dumpster. Behind the dumpster was a safe place. It was too close to the building. He checked the vital signs of the policeman that he was trying to treat, and he saw there's very low chances of him surviving. And now he turned to his jaw. It was gushing with blood at that time. There was a little voice, he said, in his head telling him, maybe you should start to say vidui.
אז אמרתי לו, אני חי, אני הולך למות פה, אני לא אומר וידוי.
And he said, no, I ignored that voice, and I said, optimistically, I'm going to say Tehillim. It's going to be okay. For the next hour and a half, Rabbi Sassi was staying trapped in his spot because of the flying bullets that were going in every direction. He knew he was safe where he was, and he saw a Shabak officer taking cover very close to the police building behind me, who promised to come and rescue the rabbi. He said, don't worry, I'm coming to get you. As soon as it's safe, as soon as the bullets stop, I'm going to get you. He threw in bottles of water, drink something, you'll be okay. He kept on talking to him. And the rabbi screamed out to the Shabak officer, I need bandages. The Shabak's like, where am I going to get bandages from right now? Where can I go? And he said, why don't you go to the van that the terrorists arrived in? Go look at the back of that van. You'll probably find bandages over there. What was he thinking? Why would there be bandages in a terrorist van coming to kill people? But that's what he told the Shabak officer. The Shabak officer said, you know what? No problem. He was able to do it. It was safe for him to go. He went to the van where the terrorists came out from, and he managed to find a tremendous amount of bandages. He came out with bandages for Rabbi Sassi, courtesy of Hamas, and he threw them at Rabbi Sassi. And at that point, it was still Shabbos. Rabbi Sassi did not want to use his phone for anything that was not Pekuach Nefesh, but at that point he felt it was Pekuach Nefesh. He switched on the video of his phone, and he took a video of his face to be able to know where to stop the blood from, and he managed to stop the blood. When the Shabak officer opened up the van that the terrorists came in, and he started looking for the bandages, he found a radio. That radio belonged to one of the terrorists. He had in his hand something so precious. As a Shabak officer, he was fluent in Arabic. He was now able to hear where the terrorists were and where their next destination was going to be. Imagine how many lives he saved by knowing what was going to be their next step. The Hashgacha process of how the Rebbeinu Shalom runs the world, even within so much tsar, so much pain. Stories of Kiddush Hashem that we have heard so many times throughout the Holocaust, always generally attributed to Rabbonim, to Rebbes, to Tzaddikim. But yet so many of the recent heart-rending stories of Mesiras Nefesh are about Yidden that are not even considered to be Shomer Torah mitzvahs. And yet, they showed us how they risked their lives to save others. Many of them murdered, both in the towns and the Yeshuvim, from the security forces, were killed. They could have remained home, and they went straight into the danger. They gave up their lives, and they saved other Jews. Reb Chaim Sassi is just one example of a selfless individual who put others before his own life. There were so many more. Some of them made it, but unfortunately, so many of them didn't. But they were selfless individuals, and their courage remains forever. This was a place that so many Yidden lost their lives in a small amount of moments. And we always say that we never understand the Rabbeinu Shalom's ways. We don't understand why the Rabbeinu Shalom does what he does. But sometimes the fact that we don't understand why the Rabbeinu Shalom does what he does is the answer. But one thing we do know, and we have emunah shleima in the Rabbeinu Shalom, that everything is with a cheshbon and everything is precise. When Rav Shimshon Pinkus Zatzal and his wife and his daughter died in a car crash right before Pesach 2001, the world was stunned and devastated to have lost not only Rav Shimshon Pinkus, but his wife and his daughter at the same time. Thousands were crying bitterly at the Levaya. Rav Shimshon Pinkus, his father, Rabbi Avram, I was zeicha myself to hear from him, stood up at the Levaya of his son, and he says the following. He says, when a person is delving into a sugya and you can't figure out pshat in a tosfos, so what do? You keep on going over it again and again, and you try to figure out any mahalach that you can in tosfos. And you know what? If you can't figure out pshat after all of that, you know what you do? You keep going, and you go weiter, and you move on to the next tosfos. Rav Shimshon Pinkus, his father, and his son Levaya held up his hands and said, Rabbeinu Shalom, we don't understand. I don't understand your ways. It's a shvera tosfos. But what do we do when we hit a shvera tosfos? A tosfos that we don't understand, a sugya, a parsha in our lives that we don't understand. We move on, and we believe be'emunah shleima that the Rabbeinu Shalom has a cheshbon. And even if we don't understand it and it doesn't make any sense, and it can't be, and it's so difficult, but we recognize that the Rabbeinu Shalom does everything with a cheshbon. 260 people, 260 neshamas died in this place where we're standing. We've been to Poland, we've been to places where we've heard the most terrible horrors that Klal Yisrael had done to them. And it's so hard for us sometimes to picture, to feel, to understand, to connect. This is something that every one of you who are in the country, an hour and a half down the street, this is what happened an hour and a half from where we were in yeshiva on the morning of October 7th on Simchas Torah. We had no idea what was going on, but we felt something was wrong. Wherever we were in the world, we felt something. When I looked around at the boys' faces at that specific time, I saw the emotion on their face. I saw that it touched them. They felt it. And every single one of us can also feel it.
Before I even stopped in that intersection, my back doors were opened and screaming of, get them on and fast as possible, don't get even off the driver's seat, just head straight to the hospital. You need to make it. I look backwards and I get 4 people. Now I'm talking about kind of injuries that no one prepared for. people that they have to see paramedics or even doctors on scene before they can even continue to hospitals. It was basically gunshots and tourniquets, missing limbs. I'm not a paramedic. I can't give medicines. I don't have medicines, not even for pain. It was to make quick decisions and just get as fast as possible to hospital just to keep them alive. And we're going back and forth. We're not even going down into Sderot.
Just to put things into context, the Hatzolah members were mainly on the outside of the kibbutzim in the festival area, from the outside to the hospitals, and they went backwards and forwards with such courage. And then there were the people inside the kibbutzim, inside the festival area. They with such courage, they did what they felt was the right thing to do. There are currently 4 security guards from the Nova Festival in captivity. They could have fled, they could have ran, but they remained behind to save others. Bar set out with his car, rescued people, and then returned of his own accord to the valley of death to save others. On a 4th round, he was attacked and taken captive. Rom circulated and hid people. He was given a chance to flee, to run away, but he insisted in helping others, and he was taken captive. Eitan was already on his way out of the area with the group that he rescued. On his way, he saw 2 murdered victims, and he insisted in staying to make sure that they get a Kavura Yisrael, a proper burial. In the middle of the Chesed Shel Emes, he was abducted, and he remains in Gaza. Agav Bas Meiriv Berger is currently being held captive in Gaza. She's a 19-year-old girl who was kidnapped from the Nachal Oz military base. She's not a Beis Yaakov girl, nor did she grow up in Meisharim. She fell captive on Simchas Torah. And it was in those horrid tunnels that she took upon herself Kabbalah's old Torah mitzvahs. She was makabel the yoke of Torah mitzvahs. She davens to the best of her ability and knowledge. She makes brachos on the little bit of food that she gets. And above all, she's taken upon herself Shmira Shabbos. Hostages that were with her in 2 different hideouts and were subsequently released all gave the same report. She took upon herself to keep Shabbos and spends every Friday davening that her captors will not make her be Machal Shabbos. When Hamas terrorists forced her into serving them in their homes,
היא מתפללת מלא והיא מברכת על האוכל והיא לא מדליקה אש בשבת והיא מדהימה.
she refused to light fires and cooked for them on Shabbos. I cannot, said her mother, begin to think of the violence and cruelty of her captors. But Agam is the strongest person I know and is choosing to lean on her faith and lifting all those around her. Agam's Mesiras Nefesh has generated tremendous chizuk in her family's neighborhood in Cholon. Her parents established a shul in a little area. It became too small, and now they're davening in the chutzah. Her father says she won't believe what's waiting for her. As soon as she comes out, she'll see it. And Be'ez Hashem, they're all going to come out well physically and, of course, emotionally intact as well. I just want to tell you a story about a yid called Shalev that fled the Nova Festival, that fled the area that we are currently standing right behind. Shalev grew up in a very Haredi home around Bnei Barak. And for whatever reason, he left Yiddishkeit. He was in the Nova Festival on Simchas Torah, October 7th, when the attack happened. He found a garbage can, and he hid in the garbage can for hours and hours until he realized it was safe to come out. As soon as he came out, he couldn't believe the sight that he saw. Dead bodies lying everywhere, and he couldn't believe, I'm alive, I'm alive. He said later on he found the first base medrash that he could. He took it to Hillim, and he fell on the Oren HaKodesh, and he was crying. Since then, he's put on tefillin every single day. Chazal tell us, Yesh koino lomo b'sha achas, that a person could acquire his entire next world in one moment. Yes, this was going on in Eretz Yisroel, but it had ripple effects around the world. There are many people that got affected by what they saw and what they heard on the morning of Simchas Torah. And one such example is Yuri Grosnas, a dear Talmud of mine who I taught over 11 years ago. At some point, he left Yiddishkeit, but on the morning of October 7th, on Simchas Torah, that changed his life forever.
Life's taken me on quite a journey since Rebbe taught me in Applebaum's, seeing a lot of the outside world, traveling, a lot of outside influence. Ultimately, leaving Yiddishkeit and just really exploring myself as a person, the world, enjoying different foods, different cultures, different people, and everything the secular world has to offer. After a lot of self-discovery, ended up back in London, living at home, very warm, supportive family. Came to Simchas Torah morning. It's about 5, 6 a.m. UK time, about 7 a.m. Israel time. And for me, that was a perfect time living within a Haredi community where not many people are out and about. I can have my own time to myself, sit on my balcony, listen to some music, smoke a joint. Sitting there, going through my phone, I ended up on Twitter. I see 1 or 2 articles, something's going on in Israel. Okay, it's not that every day something happens in Israel, but it's not a rare occurrence either. Carry on scrolling, and I saw 1 or 2 videos that were quite bizarre, quite shocking, but still didn't quite hit me that there was a major catastrophe going on. Carry on sitting there, and I followed a few hashtags, and I started seeing some really graphic footage, some really disturbing footage. Looked down at my joint, I thought maybe I'd smoked a bit too much. I kept watching more, even though I felt like I shouldn't be watching more. My system was in shock. I thought, let me see in this moment what the outside world feels about this. We're talking the first hour and a half when this attack had happened. You would think the outside world, maybe in a week or a month, they might be their regular, media-pushed headlines. You'd think within the moment there would be some sympathy. And going through the comments, all I'm seeing is Hitler should have finished you off, the Holocaust wasn't enough, Jews don't belong here, and just a whole array of comments in that sort of caliber.
Sometimes people underestimate us. What can we accomplish in this generation? We heard so many stories about regular people who led regular lives, who were able to step up to the plate and do something so courageous. Deep down, every single one of us has a tremendous koyach, a tremendous power that's hidden within us. It just has to come out. We just have to believe that we can bring it out. And it's sad that sometimes, in the midst of tragedy, that's when the greatest power comes out. We've seen it time and time again. They've tried again and again to kill us, to blot us out of the world. But Klal Yisrael have always come out on top. We've always persevered. We've always survived. The hardest things, the darkest moments, there's always light.
It's Simchas Torah morning. I'm sitting here in a Haredi community, in a Haredi house. And for a long time in my life, I've been, running from who I am, trying to find purpose elsewhere. And it sort of hit me in that moment that if the secular world still views me as a Jew, they still identify me as a Jew, regardless of what I've gone out and explored and what things I've tasted or discovered, I'm still a Jew at my core, then why can't I myself identify as a Jew? What am I running from? Within that moment, it gave me a realization that I've got to really focus, re-inspire myself to reconnect what I want from life and what I identify as, to really figure out what that goal is, what that life purpose is. Carried on through Chag with my family, my friends, a lot of rumors in the community, a lot of people looking at me thinking maybe I have the answers to some of the questions that they're worrying about. I don't feel comfortable telling anyone any details. And over Chag, I found myself really trying to push myself to connect to Chag, Simchas Torah, and what it used to mean to me, and what it can mean to me in the future. Singing with the family, taking part in the meals, and really feeling that reconnection in my neshama and trying to re-spark myself. That this is a point that we can build from, this is a point that we can grow from. And Baruch Hashem, I had friends and family that have been very supportive of me, whichever route I've taken in life. And they were, of course, ecstatic to hear that I was inspired and wanting to grow. And they offered me a support system to go to shul with them, to keep pushing forward. There definitely were moments, even right at the beginning. I remember the first 3 weeks, Shabbos was easy for me. I love my cigarettes, I love my music, but it was easy for me to wind down and switch off for 25, 26 hours. But the 4th week, I don't know why, but I felt it really difficult. And there were some moments where I slipped over the months, and I would say it's a song by Joy Newcomb, Sheva Yipul Tzadik B'Kom. And those sort of messages, Kutei Moran, is what helped me keep up my inspiration. Even in moments where I was falling, I felt like it's Yerida L'Torach Aliyah. And there's always going to be falls in life. There's always going to be moments where you slip. It's just about making the trend curve stay upwards.
I asked Yudi, what would be his message to anyone that's struggling, to a teenager out there that's listening? What chizuk can he give him?
One message that's kept me going throughout my life, it's actually from another Rebbe in the yeshiva that I learned with Rabbi Avi. And he once asked me, what is a mitzvah that I love doing and what is a mitzvah that I struggle with? And my answer to that was, one that I love doing is always being brachot, to be grateful. And one of the main ones that I struggled with over a long period of time was Shabbos. And he posed me a question that, in a scenario on Shabbos, you pour yourself a cup of Coke, you light a cigarette, do you make a bracha on the cup of Coke? I said to him, no. He said, why not? I said, I don't know, but it just doesn't feel right. And he said to me, but why chuck everything out the window? You're with Hashem in that moment. He knows that you're struggling. He's put a yitzah in you with Shabbos for whatever reasons it is. Why not thank him for that Coke in that moment? Be with him in that moment. Be with God in every moment of your life. Hashem's with you everywhere, so don't turn your back on him when he's not turning your back on you.
People are busy talking about what type of people we're here. I have no idea. But we know that we paskin like Reb Meir. Bein kach or bein kach, kuriyim bonim lamokim. You're children of the Rabbeinu Shalom, you're a child of Hashem. It doesn't make a difference where they were holding. It doesn't make a difference how low they fell. They're our brothers and sisters. They're the children of the Rabbeinu Shalom. They're one of us.
שיגמר בבקשה אלוהים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אלוהים בבקשה תעשה שיגמר.
One of the survivors of the festival over here, Shirel Gabai, she heard there was a few rockets going on, ran to find a bomb shelter. You can see behind you, there's a bomb shelter, there's another one over there, there's a whole bunch over there. And she went in with a crowd of about 30 people who crammed into the bomb shelter. They heard gunshots, they heard Arabic, they couldn't understand what was going on. It was getting louder and louder. And she said over that the terrorists came inside the bomb shelter, that she was at the back of the bomb shelter, and they started just shooting at everyone, and everybody fell on her. And she was asked, at those precise moments where you were crammed into a bomb shelter, had no idea what was going on, and there's 30 people around you dropping dead, literally on you, what were you thinking of? And you know what she said? She said, I was thinking of my parents. Can you imagine? That is what she thought about, her parents. I deal with so many parents, and so often they ask, what can I do for my child? Am I doing the right thing? We underestimate, as parents, how much we give to our children, how much they think of us, and everything we do for them makes an impact. You never know when it's going to be needed and when it's going to come out. And she said the terrorists kept on coming back and forth inside the bomb shelter to check that everyone was actually dead. 30 people for 7 hours, with more than 15 dead bodies literally fallen over her, and a bullet in her knee. She remained inside the bomb shelter. It was literally Gehenna unfolding in front of their eyes. The shootings, the screaming, the explosions from above. It was absolute chaos. Hours and hours of waiting with no idea what to expect. It's the darkest of times. And sometimes, from within the darkness, comes the greatest light. The Medrash tells us that Yaakov Avinu complained to the Rabbeinu Shalom, why are you doing this evil to me? Explains the Medrash that HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded to Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov, I'm making your son a king in Mitzrayim. Why are you complaining to me? Why are you calling it evil? Asks Rabbi Rucham, I don't understand. It's great when the Tzorah is finished, when everything's great and we can look back and say, everything is great now. But in the midst of the trouble, in the midst of the tsuris, when things are going so bad, when it's dark and it's horrible and we don't understand what's happening, how are we meant to fathom that good can ever come from it? Answers Rabbi Yerucham. This teaches us that even from a situation that looks so dark, that looks so terrible, that looks so negative, we have to understand that it's part of a greater plan. That's the pshat in Tehillim, when David HaMelech says, Min ha'meitza karosi ka, from within the straits, that's when I call out to the Rabbeinu Shel Olam. When David HaMelech was going through his hardest times, he realized the salvation was on its way, and he called out to Hashem. Sometimes things just go so wrong. We feel that it's dark. We feel the Rabbeinu Shel Olam has abandoned us. We have to learn, no, it's all part of the Yeshua. It's part of the salvation. The Rabbeinu Shel Olam has a master plan, and it's very much from the darkness that we can hope to see the light. Ro'i, he was here together with his wife, and he said he remembers he was here at the festival, was filming everything that was going on. He noticed rockets flying. He could sense something was wrong, something wasn't right. All he could think about was how the music is still playing in such a situation. Rockets were flying in a direction, the music is playing. Doesn't make any sense. He said to his wife, this could be our last moment together. She said, what are you talking about? Doesn't make any sense. They passed a car, and instead of running, they saw that the person inside the car was sleeping, and there was a good chance that he was going to be killed.
היה שם מישהו צדיק שנרדם כל הלילה באוטו. וכשראיתי אותו ישן, לא הצלחתי להמשיך. פשוט חזרתי והערתי אותו.
So they knocked on the window. He didn't answer. They kept on knocking and knocking and knocking, and eventually he woke up. And they told him, let's get up, get up, get up, go away. He finally woke up. He actually got a message 5 days after October 7th from this person in the car to say, you saved my life because you stopped and you thought about someone else, which is also an incredible thing for someone to be able to think of someone else. And they kept on running and running. They were saying Shema Yisrael the whole time.
רק בורא עולם הציל אותם באותו יום, לא אף אחד אחר.
שמר עלינו. צריכים להודות לו כל כך ולקבל על עצמנו משהו, אז קיבלנו את השבת המלכה.
They realized where their life was headed, and they became religious afterwards. They said they have to keep Shabbos, they have to start moving on. This production was brought to you for no charge whatsoever, because we really felt that the message was so important, we wanted everyone to hear it and get the chizuk that we got from it. Take a part in all the thousands that are listening on this day, and allow me to continue doing what I do. One of the stories that was said over by one of the Hatzolah members, Avi Yudkovsky, who was driving injured people backwards and forwards, and he had dropped off people in the hospital, and there's a soldier there. He'd been injured, and now he's ready to go back inside. He enters the back of the ambulance, and they're driving. This is the drive that they had done so many times, backwards and forwards to the hospital, back from the hospital, taking injured people. And all of a sudden, the Special Forces soldier rolls down the window, takes out his gun, and is ready to shoot. And they look in the back of the ambulance and they say to him, is everything okay? What are you doing? We've gone down this road so many times. What are you doing now? And he said, I was here a few hours ago. A terrorist shot at me from that tree right over there. This is what the Hatzolah members did. They willingly drove into an active war zone. Not because they had to, not because it was their job, because it was the right thing to do. We get chizuk from hearing these stories and seeing the decisions that these people made that saved so many lives.
On the third or fourth drive down, we get a young lady. She was from the festival. She managed to escape. She got shot. And long story short, she managed to get to us with a tourniquet on her, missing finger. We didn't know it until we were in the middle of a drive down to the hospital that certain kind of position hurt her. And then we realized she had another gunshot under her hand. She had another bullet inside her head. And she was about to give up. We couldn't let her fall asleep. If she would fall asleep, she would not wake up. And I got the order to go to Ashkelon. It's closer and harder injuries. But in a split of a thought, I remember in the previous drive down that there's still people still waiting in the emergency room with tourniquets sitting there on the floor. There was no more space. I knew that she might not be taken care of in time. She might not survive. And even if she would survive, she would lose her entire hand. In a split of a decision, with not asking no one, I decided to continue another 7 to 10 minutes drive down. to Asuta in Ashdod to give her a chance. It's a more simple hospital. Maybe she'll be taken care of. We never heard from her again. About 4 months later, we got the first regards. She's missing just one finger.
These are regular people. They're first responders. They're not meant to be walking into a war zone. And yet, so many of them, selflessly, not thinking about themselves, but only others and what they can do. They didn't have to go. Nobody asked them to go, but they went. One specific Hatzolah member from United Hatzolah recalls driving down this road and seeing cars and bodies scattered all over. And then he came across 2 officers of special forces lying on the ground. Now there are dead people everywhere. They weren't able to tend to the dead people because they were so busy trying to save people that were still alive. But they just couldn't bear leaving officers and soldiers on the street that were killed, because when other soldiers and other officers and other police forces would see that their own forces were killed, it would demoralize them, and therefore they removed them chesed shel emes. And he described seeing all the dead bodies lying all over. He was reminded of the words, Habeit b'shamayim erei, ki ayinu lag v'keles lagoyim, look from Shamayim and perceive that we've become an object of scorn amongst the nations. We're regarded as sheep that are led to the slaughter, to be killed, to be destroyed, to be beaten and humiliated, which is what happened on this very street. But despite this, we will never forget the Rabbeinu Shel Olam. We will never forget your name, Hashem. Hundreds of cars literally burnt, scattered all over Route 232. We stopped at a specific place and we looked at those cars. Behind me is so many of the cars of people that were burnt, many of them alive. Remember, there were people in these cars, many of them burnt to death. That's what we saw, the death traps that each car was.
We drove through roads, the 232 road, the bloody road, where it was fully smoke. It was like towards evening. It was already very dark from the smoke. And I'm trying to make it through with all the fear, and you feel you're in hell. You feel it, and you see the pictures around you. You see cars, you see parts of cars, and they're thrown everywhere, still in flames and smoke, and there's bodies inside. And we had ambulances that stopped to literally just pull out people being burned, just so they will have a grave. And we had bodies and parts of bodies on the road, terrorists and our people, and then trying to maneuver it between everything.
While all this was going on, many of the kibbutzim were being attacked in the most barbaric manners. Hostages were being taken. Children were being killed in front of their parents, and parents were being slaughtered in front of their children. We're in Gaza, which is situated about 5 kilometers east of Gaza. Behind me is Gaza. It was one of the many Israeli communities that was devastated by what happened on October 7th on Simchas Torah. Some of the homes covered in large bullet holes that start at the doorways and move into the living room, those safe rooms of the residents that were there at the time. Others are reduced to nothing, to rubble. Some of them completely burnt, blackened, charred from the grenades that the terrorists threw inside while the families were still there. Some of the homes were so severely burned that the professionals that were brought in had to sift through the ash. And inside and outside, families' belongings are all scattered all over the place. In fact, now 9 months later, there are some of the houses that we cannot even go into because they're still looking for some of the places that might have pieces of bodies over there. Over 70 terrorists came in from right here behind me through this gate, straight into the community over there in front, and murdered about 67 of the residents. 17 hostages were taken straight from over there where I'm looking, right behind me, through this gate into Gaza. And they kept on coming in and out to get more and more hostages. There was no one too young, no one too old to slaughter. It took the Israeli army over half a day to reach the kibbutz of 750 people. And the fighting continued for 3 days, finding terrorists days later after Simchas Torah. And the attack was so rapid that reporters said that later they came in at the end of the day or the next day, and they found milk and coffee still on the side. It was so quick, they didn't have a moment. Walking into a home and seeing a birthday cake, meaning it was a day that the family was meant to have a simcha, a happiness, a special and joyful occasion, that unfortunately was ruined in such a tragic way. It all happened so quickly. Regular life, in seconds, turned into horror. Tisha B'Av marks 312 days since the hostages were taken into Gaza. Imagine what the hostages are going through. Picture their lives before and their lives right now, sitting in darkness, without the realization of day or night. Food, who knows? Is anybody even waiting for them? Does anybody even know that they're there? Is anyone going to save them? It's time on Tisha B'Av to try and think about their pain and connect to what they're feeling. If not today, when? I brought into yeshiva one day a father of one of the hostages, Elchanan Danino, the father of Ori. I wanted the boys to hear firsthand from someone that's experiencing that weight, that has a son in captivity in Gaza. We walked out of that with so much chizuk in emunah. How someone can still believe so strongly in the Rabbeinu Shalom when life is so difficult and life is so challenging. Ori is still in captivity and our tefillahs are with him, along with all of the hostages on this very special day. Hundreds of terrorists swarmed into this unsuspecting Gaza border community of Kibbutz Be'eri in what would become the deadliest killing grounds and worst attack on a single community. Residents over here had to fend for themselves for hours. 101 civilians and 31 security personnel were killed just in this kibbutz alone. A community of only 1,000 residents, and a further 30 residents and 2 more civilians were taken hostage by Hamas terrorists. 125 homes were damaged in the community. You can see behind me the devastation of what they did. As we walk from house to house, we'll see that each house represented a family that just wanted to live a normal, happy, fun, successful, fulfilled life. We walked through those homes and we saw it with our own eyes. Utter devastation. Lives that were shattered in seconds. Complete and utter destruction. Behind me is the house where 2 of my cousins' children, twins, Yanai and Liel, Hetzroni Hella, 12 years old. They lived with their great aunt and grandfather, who were also murdered.
Just my world caved in completely, not knowing whether they were hostages in the Gaza Strip, not knowing how they were, not being able to be there. I wasn't able to protect them.
But there was so little found of Liel's body that they almost buried some of her toys instead.
And Liel's belongings, as you can see here.
which perhaps had some of her blood or something on it because there was just so little left to even bury. They identified her by literally sieving the remnants. And he said to me when I spoke to him recently, he said, this memory will live with me for the rest of my life. That he was never really able to bury his children in a proper manner. I'll never watch them grow up. I'll never see them get married. And I'll never see them do what all parents want to see their children do. As parents, we all have dreams and aspirations for our children. Can you imagine, on that fateful day, how many parents' dreams were shattered, were gone? There was nothing left. This is where the dentistry was in Kibbutz Be'eri, which turned into a mini hospital on the morning of October 7th, in Simchas Torah, when people started to get injured. So they took this over. So one of the doctors lives across the street, ran over here, and they came in here to treat some of the wounded. And many of the wounded were inside, and 3 specific men that you see behind me came out in order to try and fight the terrorists. One was killed immediately on the street, and then the terrorists came inside and killed all the people that were wounded inside. I want to share with you a story about 2 children in Kfar Aza. Michael, a boy of 9 years old, and his sister, Amelia. She was only 6. When the terrorists entered their home, chaos erupted. Michael, only 9 years old, picks up the phone and calls Hatzolah. He reported to the Hatzolah member on the phone that one of his parents is lying in a pool of blood on the floor, unresponsive.
איפה אתה נמצא? בבית בממ"ד, לא לצאת משם, בסדר? תיקח את אחותך לשם ותנעל את עצמכם, בסדר? בסדר? אנחנו שולחים כוחות אליכם.
The Hatzolah member tells him, go into the safe room. You'll be safe over there. Good people will come and help you. 9 years old. He takes his sister, Amelia, 6, and they go into the bomb room. But the door is just too heavy to close. He says, I can't close the door. So the Hatzolah member says, is there anywhere inside the room that you can hide? And he says, well, there's a cabinet, there's a closet there.
אז אמרתי לו, מיכאל, תיכנס לארון, תיקח את עמליה, תסגור את הדלת חזק, ואל תפתח עד שאנשים טובים באים. וכל פעם שאתה מפחד, אתה מחייג 101 ואני מבטיחה לענות לך. והוא סגר את הארון, הוא אמר לי, אני יושב ואני מחזיק לה את היד, וכל פעם שאני אפחד אני אחייג אלייך ואת תעני לי. והילד הזה חייג פעם אחר פעם לשאול אותנו מתי אנחנו מגיעים.
He lies on one, and his sister, only 6 years old, lies on the other one. And for 12 hours, they're on the phone. They don't want to give up. They're waiting. And she's giving them chizuk the whole time. It's going to happen. Someone's going to come and save you. You're going to be rescued. And 12 hours later, the soldiers came in, and they rescued both of them alive.
וואו, ממש תודה רבה, אני באמת...
Behind me is the house of our dear friend Eli over here. He was in the safe room. About 11:30, they hear the terrorists coming in. You hear shooting, grenades, start smelling smoke. They're obviously lighting things on fire. And they're going from family to family, from house to house. They've got the bottom floor, and now they've come upstairs to the top floor to his neighbor. And he hears they're making a fight, they're trying to get in. And eventually he smells the smoke. It's getting stronger and stronger. At about 1:30 p.m., when the smoke is starting to come into the room, he's got himself, his wife, and his 3 children. His wife says, I can't take this anymore. Let's jump out the window. It's 2 floors, we'll make it. We'll jump out the window. He says, what do you mean? You can't do that. There's terrorists all over the place. You can't just jump. So his wife, with a small opening of the window, she stuck out her hand and videoed outside to see if there's any terrorists hanging around on the streets. Brought the video back in, they saw there was no one around. They opened the window, he jumped down first, and he ran over to the pergola over there, the neighbor. They made it up around the other end, went upstairs. His 3 children followed. One of his children broke the leg, and then his wife followed afterwards, and they were all saved over there. Tremendous act of courage. They kept strong, they kept going. And he said to me, it was an absolute nace. Ruth Haran from Kibbutz Be'eri. She survived. And even though many of her members of family were actually kidnapped, including her great-granddaughter Yael and 6 other members of her family were all kidnapped, she opened the door to her house in Be'eri and she saw 6 terrorists wearing black with a green strip on their head. She said the look was petrifying. They looked like they were about to kill, which is of course what they were trying to do. All of a sudden, she has no idea why, they were called by their commander nearby to go somewhere else, and they ran off. This woman survived the Holocaust, and she was asked, was October 7th compared to the Holocaust? Because there are many people who are saying, how could you compare it to the Holocaust? And she said the following: if a pregnant woman could have her stomach slashed open and they're burning babies in houses, why is that not a Holocaust? That's a Holocaust. And she said, absolutely, she can't sleep at night. The images were coming back to her again and again. She opened the door to her home and saw outside the dead bodies. An anguished Yid once asked the Klosenberger Rebbe, while in Auschwitz, Rebbe, he said, do you still say, Atah b'chartanu, Rabbeinu Shalom, you chose us as your nation? And the Rebbe replied and he said, absolutely. In fact, I say it now with more kavanah than ever before, because had I not been chosen to be a Yid, then I might have been a murderous German. I prefer to be a suffering Jew than a cruel non-Jew. 80 years or more have passed. Mrs. Aviva Siegel, who lived here in Kfar Aza, a kibbutznik who lived with the ideas of coexistence and equality, that everyone should live together, now tells everyone, after I saw how they trampled us and how they attacked us so brutally, now I say, it's a miracle that I am a Jew. We're in the house of Amichai Schindler, and he was here in the morning of October 7th. This is the safe room of his house, and he was in this bone room together with his family, his wife and children, and held on to the handle. And they banged on the door and they said, let us in, it's the IDF, we're the Israeli army, we're here to save you. They were talking in Hebrew. He realized that they were not really Israelis, they were in fact terrorists. So they held on to the door. So the Arab terrorists over here, literally where I'm standing, they placed a bomb on the door and they blew up the door in order to let it open and come inside and kill everyone inside. And just as the bomb exploded and the door opened, the security team in this kibbutz distracted them, took them outside and killed them. And you could see clearly the marks over here of a bomb that exploded. And in fact, he said that he had over here on this doorpost where we're standing, he had a very simple wooden mezuzah. And all of the explosions, absolutely nothing got touched. The mezuzah was completely intact, nothing happened to it. And in fact, his family himself was saved. He was badly injured. And that was what went on over here. So we can just, for a moment, picture, or maybe even try to capture the emotions of a family inside a bomb room and his little children who are petrified, trembling, scared. All the various emotions that children may have in such a situation. Of course, they got their parents next to them, but still the unknown. What's going to be, what's going to happen, who knows if we're going to make it alive, is one of the most petrifying experiences that any human being can ever have, and especially a child. Chazal tell us that Shabbos is the ultimate bracha. Shabbos is the Makor HaBracha, it's the foundation of all the bracha in our lives. We say in the Zmiris, Ki eshmer Shabbos, kel yishmerenu. When I keep the Shabbos, the Rabbeinu Shalom protects us. We witnessed so much pain. It was such a difficult day, seeing those sights and hearing those stories. But yet, from within the darkness, we found some sparks of light. We never understand why things happen, and we can never offer answers to the most difficult questions. But sometimes we look at Chazal and it gives us the chizuk. Chazal tell us that Shabbos protects and saves lives. And we can clearly see that on the morning of Simchas Torah, it did exactly that. Kibbutz Sa'ad, a religious kibbutz just south of Kfar Aza. The residents inside on the morning of Simchas Torah were b'simcha. They were celebrating the Yontiv of Simchas Torah. And they realized a little bit of what was going on. There were sirens, they heard the rockets, obviously. And it was only a matter of time that the terrorists were also going to reach this entrance and come inside their kibbutz. They can hear the shooting, they can hear screaming from various places nearby. They know what's going on. And they realize that there's no army, there's no one to save them, and they're completely alone. All of a sudden, making no sense whatsoever, out of nowhere, appears a tank. A tank driving on the street fast, almost like a car.
אחרי 40 דקות מגיע פתאום איזה טנק, משום מקום, טנק בודד, נסע במהירות על הכביש, כמו איזה מכונית, מסובב צרח לכיוון המחבלים ויורה בירי מקלעים מאוד מאוד מסיבי וחזק, כמו איזה אליהו נביא שמגיע וחוסם את השער.
And kills almost 20 terrorists right over here before they can even enter inside. An unbelievable thing, which they realize doesn't happen and didn't make any sense. And there were others as well. There's a place called Kfar Maimon, a religious moshav between Beria and Netivot. The gate was closed because of Shabbos Kodesh. The terrorists didn't even enter the gate, and they continued on their way. Tifrach, a religious moshav 7 kilometers east of Ofakim, over 1,000 yeshiva bochrim celebrating Simchas Torah that morning. The terrorists didn't even reach there. Tukuma and Zimrat, also religious moshavs located between Sa'ad and Netivot, very close to where we are. The terrorists passed by, but never even tried to enter. And there's no question about it, that the Shmir Shabbos protected them over here and in so many other places. There's an electrifying Meshech Chochmah, written almost in prophecy. He writes, Chilul Shabbos was spreading, people weren't keeping the halacha. But when there's unity, when there's achdus in Klal Yisrael, the anger of Hashem is subdued. But when there's increased disunity and strife, tragedy can follow. The Meshech Chochmah writes this in 1926. The Holocaust was not long after. And so it goes through history. And indeed, leading up to October 7th, there was so much fighting. There was so much disunity. There was so much strife. And then, tragedy struck. One of the messages that we felt during that day was a message of achdus. Today, on Tisha B'Av, is the day that we're meant to be thinking about somebody else. This is the bomb shelter that Arnez Shapiro, a British-Israeli soldier, the age of 22 years old, was killed. But it was how he was killed that I think should be such an inspiration. He was in this bomb shelter, the side of the road, trying to save his life, amongst many as well. The terrorists came over, they realized there were people inside, and they wanted to kill them. So they took a grenade and they threw it inside. And there's a 4-minute dashcam video from a nearby car that was parked right over here. And you could see the hand of somebody who picked up the grenade, a live grenade, and he threw it out. That was Arnez Shapiro. He didn't just do it once. He did it 7 times. 7 times he picked up a live grenade in order to save his life and the life of so many other people. The 8th grenade, unfortunately, Rachmana litzlan, exploded in his hand and it killed him. But it was the act of selflessness, the act of thinking about somebody else, not putting your life first and running into the corner so I can be saved, but rather, how can I save someone else?
We heard it straight from those terrorists being investigated, the way what they were talking about what caused them to go for it. They were ready for a while, as we all heard afterwards. They said that the fact they saw us fighting in between us, that was the reason they felt it's the right time to come in.
The Maharal explains that even when Klal Yisrael are doing Averis, even when Klal Yisrael are sinning, the intrinsic holiness of a Yid, when there is Achdus, inspires tremendous Rachamim, tremendous mercy. And we find that in the Megillas Esther. The turning point came, according to many, when Mordechai and Esther brought in all of Klal Yisrael, men, women, and children together to daven, to fast, to learn Torah. When there was the Achdus together, that was the turning point in the Megillah. But when there's a nation that's ripped apart, that's going in different directions, hatred and disputes, it causes devastation and it causes destruction. The Pele Yoetz writes in Ahavas Re'im, he brings a Medrash Tanchuma Parshas Tzav, that the Shechina rests on Klal Yisrael only when there's Achdus. There's no question that before what happened over here, there was a tremendous lack of Achdus. There was internal fighting with different sections of Klal Yisrael, something that should never be. And we're here to try and inspire ourselves that in every situation, whatever we're going through, whatever we're experiencing, whatever we hear, whatever we believe in, wherever someone's holding, it's irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, there has to be Achdus, and when we have that Achdus, then we have the Shechina. But when we lose the Achdus, when we're so busy with ourselves, then we causes, as it did, a lot of destruction.
I'm a free man. I haven't been in the army. No one called me to come here. No one made me come here. I have a family at home and a safe Yerushalayim Kodesh, Yom Tov. I'm smack in metal battlefield, surrounded by terrorists. I don't know if I'm gonna make it out. And we're watching just army cars coming from inside Kfar Aza, hearing the booming, seeing the helicopters shooting down, and I see, Baruch Hashem, some people walking out alive, civilians that were trapped inside. We see injured people as well. We see soldiers injured, and sadly we see those that didn't make it. And we see terrorists as well, captured. And I can't understand what I'm doing there. And then there's a moment that there was a commando, and he came up to me and just gave me a huge hug with no words. And it was a moment that we both were with tears in our eyes, with no words. Looks at me straight in my eyes and he says to me, "You're the last person I expected to see over here. Last week, you were the person I most hated. Now, you're my brother. You're my family." That moment with that commando was exactly what we should feel. It's what we really are. We're brothers. If I believe in serving in the army or not, if I believe in his way or not, he is my family. He is a Jewish person. And sadly, we don't need to get to those times, but we are one.
Baruch Hashem, I made Aliyah just after Pesach. That was a huge spiritual high for me. To be part of a nation that however hard we hit, we get up and we keep going. And you know, this is the story of the Jewish nation for thousands of years. There's always attacks that bring us down, but we're a nation that stick together. We inspire each other, we hold each other, and we push each other to grow.
Ace Sruli Yaakov. time of danger for Klal Yisrael. Our brothers and sisters are sitting, as we speak, in captivity, not far down the road in Gaza. Who would have thought that when we say the words, Achenu kol Beis Yisrael anasun betzoro b'shivya, that we mean it in a literal sense, that we're asking the Rabbeinu Shalom to release those in captivity. The Belzer Rebbe asked the most fascinating question. The Belzer Rebbe said, why don't we start the tefillah with a Yiratzen? Every tefillah normally starts with a Yiratzen. Why don't we start Achenu kol Beis Yisrael with a Yiratzen? Zog the Belzer Rebbe, because Achenu kol Beis Yisrael, when all of the Yidden are together, when they're all ba'achtas, when we all care about each other, there's no need to say Yiratzen, because the unity and the achtas of Klal Yisrael is so powerful that nothing else is necessary. To one who believes that the Rabbeinu Shalom is the creator of the world, it should be clear to love and respect every single one of his human creations and the neshama that he blew inside every single one of them. Failure to do so indicates a lack of respect for the one that created them. We may have our differences, that's okay. But ultimately, we have to love and respect every Yid in Klal Yisrael. When we planned this video, we thought that by Tisha B'Av, there'll be nothing to talk about. But we're still here. It's Tisha B'Av, and the war is still going. The hostages are still in Gaza. And people are dying on a daily basis. Why? The same reason that the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash happened is the same reason that we're still here in the middle of this war. We don't have the Achdus. Yes, we may have had it for a few months, right after the war began, but we lost something, and we need to continue and be mechazik that Achdus. I wanted the boys to see this, and I want every single one of you to see this. We're brothers and sisters. Every single one of us care about each other, love each other, and want the best for each other. And when we do that, things will change. The Medrash talks about the greatness of Mordechai Tzaddik. Like Avraham Avinu, he stood as an individual against the whole world to spread emunah in Hashem. The Pasuk in the Megillah calls him Ish Yehudi, Jewish person. Don't read it Yehudi, read it Yechidi, one. That means that every single Yid is the only one to the Rabbeinu Shalom. You have a task that is assigned only to you. There's nobody else that can do what you were sent down on this world to accomplish. All the nisyonos that you've gone through, all the challenges that you've gone through are your personal challenges that are tailor-made for you. Think about the people over here that were unable to continue their lives. And we are, Baruch Hashem, able to continue our lives and accomplish and do. The Maral says that we're called B'ni B'chori. My son, my firstborn, says the Maral. What does that mean? A family can only have one firstborn. How can it be that everyone's called that? Says the Maral, if we would recognize and realize how the Rabbeinu Shalom treats and looks at every single one of us as his only child, and the love a parent has to an only child is unbelievable. How much greater the Rabbeinu Shalom loves us. We're a child to the Rabbeinu Shalom, and he's waiting for us. And he wants to inspire us, and he wants to connect to us. But we have to make the first step. This production was brought to you for no charge whatsoever, because we really felt that the message was so important, we wanted everyone to hear it and get the chizuk that we got from it. Take a part in all the thousands that are listening on this day, and allow me to continue doing what I do. We've seen utter destruction. Families being wiped out, homes destroyed, lives changed forever. We felt the pain, but we also heard the stories of miracles, of perseverance and courage, stories of selflessness and achdus. That's the light from within the darkness that's so difficult to see. The Abturov says that when Klal Yisrael entered the Beis HaMikdash and they walked into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they saw the Kruvim facing each other, which is known to be a time of such intense love between the Rabbeinu Shalom and Klal Yisrael. And he asks, how can it be? How can it be at a time of so much destruction, Chorban Beis HaMikdash, that the Kruvim at this time are facing each other? Says the Abturov, it's the time that the Rabbeinu Shalom sends us away that there's so much pain, that there's also so much love. And it's the time of the Churban, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to put us in exile, where there was so much love between us and the Ribbono Shel Olam. We have to remember, we're living in dark times. We're living in times of so much pain, so much destruction. But yet, Chazal tell us, don't worry, the Ribbono Shel Olam is with us with so much love in every one of our lives. Tzoros, hardships, are meant to change us as people. They're meant to improve us. They're meant to get us closer to the Ribbono Shel Olam. The Medrash asks, how is it that right after Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, all of a sudden Paro starts running after us? Asks the Medrash, why would the Ribbono Shel Olam do such a thing? Why would the Ribbono Shel Olam release Klal Yisrael from their slavery and straight after have Paro running after them? Answers the Medrash as follows. Because when Klal Yisrael were in Mitzrayim, they were in a hard time. It was difficult. They were davening to the Ribbono Shel Olam. They felt the pain and they had that connection. But when they left Mitzrayim, they were free. And all of a sudden, there was no more connection. It says the Medrash, sometimes the Ribbono Shel Olam sees our disconnect and says, I want you to connect again. And therefore, the Ribbono Shel Olam brings tzoros to our lives to enable us to reconnect. The tzoros that we just witnessed and the tzoros that we're currently going through have a purpose. And that purpose is for us to be able to turn to the Ribbono Shel Olam and to reconnect our relationship with the Melech Malchei HaMelachim. The Chofetz Chaim asks the question, how can we possibly dream of bringing Moshiach? The Tanoim, the Amoraim didn't do it, the Rishonim, the Achronim, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, the Chassam Sofer, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, the Baal HaTanya, none of them could do this. And we, little us, is going to bring Moshiach? It's not possible. Explains the Chofetz Chaim that our deeds in this world mean so much to the Ribbono Shel Olam, way more than what their deeds meant at the time that they lived. Because of the nisyonos, the trials and tribulations that we go through in our lives in this generation. Every small thing we do means so much to the Ribbono Shel Olam. The Ribbono Shel Olam wants your Torah. He wants your Tehillim. He wants your davening, Hafrashas Challah, your Negel Wasser, your Tzitzis, your Tefillin, your Chesed, whatever you can do. Every action you bring into this world creates the light from within the darkness. And we're living in a dark generation. So the smallest thing we do brings in the greatest light. That can bring Mashiach. In the schos of so many that died then on that day, and every single day until today, and the hostages, and the tzoros that Klal Yisrael are going through, and there's so much tzoros, it's too much for us to bear. Let's close our eyes just for a few seconds and think, what can we do in our lives? What can we do to get closer to the Ribbono Shel Olam? To develop that relationship with Hashem? What can we improve in? What can we accept upon ourselves on this bitter day of Tisha B'Av to enable the Beis HaMikdash to come quicker? We should all be zoicha to stand together, to dance together with the Binyan Bayis Shlishi, Bimheira V'Yameinu. Amen.